I've already got 2.5 hours of filming on this particular project, so I'm going to bust it up into a 2 or maybe a 3-part video, and this has been a lot bigger project than I had anticipated from the beginning. But just want to let you know ahead of time, hopefully when I get it done, it's all going to be worthwhile. Alright, in this video I'm going to try to build a 30-inch kitchen cabinet, 3-drawer. The first task that I'm going to need to do here is cut this piece of granite that I picked up off of Facebook Marketplace. I've never cut granite before. I've got a grinder with a diamond blade on it. I've set up a couple square pipes here, try to hold my cutter at a 90-degree angle so I get a pretty nice cut along the edge. And the granite top itself isn't quite deep enough, so I'm going to try to come up with a way so that it flushes out with the existing countertop. Not sure if I'm going to extend it by using wood as the backsplash and a little spacer in between it, but I'm going to figure that out as I go along. So I'm going to turn the camera around, put it on time lapse, and we're going to try to get the first cut on this granite done. Alright, that wasn't part of my plan. I'm about a 1/4 inch shy of making it all the way through. I think what I'm going to end up doing is going ahead and just coming through this end, going all the way through, and then go to the other side, do the same thing. And if I can flip it over without it breaking, I'll just go ahead and finish cutting from the other side. All right, let's see how it works. All right, this is my plans for the leftover piece. A good buddy of mine taught me how to do body work years ago. And on his bench, he had a piece of glass, flat glass, and he mixed all his body filler on that. And boy, was it nice for mixing it, getting it squeegeed out, spreading it, getting the hardener in evenly, but then also the cleanup. Now, that's what I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to use this for. I've got a 67 Mustang that's going to be hopefully on some of my upcoming videos that I need to do a lot of work to. but I'm definitely going to be using the body filler. So I'm going to hang on to this and use it for that purpose. All right, my current countertop is 25.5 inches away from the wall to this front edge right here. So I'm 2.5 inches short. So I've got to make up that much room, 2.5 inches, to get it back to the wall. And I'm going to make a backsplash, I believe, out of some mold palette material that I have out back. It's got some deep dark colored woods in it, or I'll find something else with a deep dark color. And I don't know how I'm going to attach it, whether I'm going to just epoxy it, whether I'm going to try to drill and dowel that, and I might make it like a butcher block, so that as I get this piece over and the actual backsplash, it may end up with a butcher block look to it. But we'll see what we come up with over time, see what my brain can come up with. All right, that countertop is cut and set off to the side for right now, and we'll get back to that, I think, after the cabinet is put together. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the prints that I made for myself, cut sheets, and I'm going to show you all the material that I have purchased prior to actually getting started on this project. All right, here's the prints that I made for myself. I started out with the front view, and it's going to be 34 5/8 high, total height. It's going to have 3 separate drawer compartments, and I am putting dividers in. That's what the dotted lines are for, and that's going to be 1/2 inch plywood. And then with that, I'm going to go ahead, and I have an existing countertop up here with the height, and in order to get the 2 countertops to be level with one another, I'm going to have to notch out that upper corner there. And then my second drawing I made for myself was the left side view, and it just shows where I'm putting those 1/2 inch, and I think I drew them on the drawing as 3/4 inch and then changed my mind as being too heavy. I'm going to be putting in the pocket screws on this whole project because I have them and I have the tools for doing it. I started making a list of materials when it came to, I got that far with it and said I better start writing some of this down as what I'm going to need. And just now I sat down and added up. I'm going to have $560.18 plus tax in this project, and that's probably about $80 some of that is with a tool that I purchased, and I'll show you that here in a second. But I figured everything out, and this is my drawing for my drawers, and over here on the side you can see I have 3 different size drawers. I've got the bottom, the middle, and the top in each one of these for the back sides and the fronts. Now that's not going to be the finished fronts. There's going to be pocket screws in those, and I'm going to end up using the sanded plywood for the fronts. And then I made a drawing, kind of a cut sheet for myself. I have 2 pieces of 1/2 inch thick plywood for the backs, all the 3 dividers that I talked about earlier, and the drawer bottoms, and then the second sheet is going to get the next 2 drawer bottoms out of those. And then on the 3/4 inch plywood cut sheet, I've got the 2 sides. I don't have the kickboards drawn in there. I've got the drawer fronts, top, middle, and bottom. I've got the front rails, and everything that I'm going to take. So this piece is going to be left over, and then the 4x8 sheet from the second piece, there's going to be quite a bit more than a half a sheet left over from that one. But this is the tool over here that I purchased, and I haven't put it together yet, but it's a Craig straight edge guide, and it'll enable me to rip the full length of plywood in a straight line. I also purchased these soft close drawer slides. I bought a set of 5. I'm only going to use 3 sets. I bought some nice glue, high quality glue for gluing all the joints. I bought a roll of veneer from Lowe's. That's a 250 foot, because I'm going to have to do all of the drawer edges and the front edges of the plywood, at least on the front of the cabinet. And then over here I have the plywood. I've got the 2 pieces of 1/2 inch, piece of 3/4 inch, and I purchased a set of, a 4x8 of just 1/2 inch thick foam for ripping so I could get the blade through. And for the drawers, I bought poplar. And the poplar, they only had the, I think 11 1/4 inch boards, and one of them that they had was damaged. Let me get out of the shadow here. But you can see that edge there. There's like 4 or 5 spots where they had it bound down with some of that banding, and it damaged it. So I asked a manager for a discount and got like 15 bucks off of that board. But I got a 10-footer for the middle drawer, 10-footer for the top drawer, and then for the bottom drawer I ended up getting 2 6-footers. But that is the material that I purchased for this project, and I'm going to get this straight edge put together and get started. All right, I got this straight edge from Craig together. It took me about 40 minutes. I assembled it as an 8-foot section, and then I turned around and broke it down because the first cuts I needed to make was for 4-foot. But it's fairly easy. You take the handle off of the end section that you're working with when it's an 8-foot. I removed 2 of these sections, and it uses these rails to couple it together. So I'll set that off to the side because I'm not going to need it for a while. But I chose this instead of a track saw. I didn't have a lot that I knew of in the future that I was going to be, using this type of tool for. But let me show you how this thing works. Now this is what I cut my first sections of drawer bottoms out of, so that part is missing. But I put a couple marks here at 12 inches, one here and one on this side. And what they do is they have these guides that you set your saw up, or these guides up to your saw. And once you have it set, what you do is you slide these out so that you can line these little flat ends up to, let me get them up here so you can see it. So the inside edge of this is going to be the edge of the board. So, and what you do is you put this on here so that it lines up with that mark that you've got, and this end slides, and you bring it past the edge, you line up the inside edge of it to the mark where you want your board to be cut. You hold pressure on that one and you just give it a pull. And that thing holds nice. I've made 3 cuts with it so far, and this is about 3/8 of an inch high, so you got plenty to run against with the side rail of your saw. And then once you have these this in place and you're happy with where it's lining up to your guides, you just push them back out of the way. Now I'll tell you one thing, that with 1/2 inch plywood, because these are about 3/4 inch thick, maybe not that much, maybe they're about 5/8, but you gotta kind of space it up. Now over here at the side, I bought a piece of 1/2 inch foam to lay it on to make those cuts. And then you go ahead and make your cut, and then to remove it, all you do is pull out on the end of it, and this is spring loaded on this end. So it does a very nice job of holding tight to the board and giving you a good rail to hold against. And I've made those 3 cuts, and they were all, you know, perfect as far as I'm concerned. So as far as the tool goes, definitely would spend the money again, and because it does do its job. But let me turn the camera around, and I'm going to show you the first drawer that I've got together for that cabinet that I'm making. All right, there's the first drawer. Now it's going to be the top drawer. The sides of it are 2.5 inches, no, 3.5 inches tall. You can see I got some marks on it from when I ran it through the dado blade to put the grooves in for the drawers. And I changed my drawing a little bit, and I used the dado blade, and so this is laps over on the end, and each one of the drawer bottoms slides in. I made the dado groove for that drawer bottom 3/8 of an inch, so half the distance of that 3/4 inch poplar board that goes around the whole perimeter of that drawer. And I'm going to, the other thing I did is I cut the drawer 1/16 of an inch on all 4 sides, smaller than the total space, so that I made sure that my joints, once I get them glued and nailed and clamped, they're going to be nice and tight here. But I'm going to knock this thing apart, do a little bit of sanding on it, and then I'm going to glue it up, square it up, and clamp it up, and we'll see how it looks tomorrow. Okay, all my pieces and parts are sanded, and what I'm going to use is my little finish air nailer with some 1-inch 16 gauge. I'm going to use these clamps in the corner, but I'm going to glue the joints also, and I'm going to turn the camera around, put it on time lapse, and get this thing together. All right, there it is, together as much as it's going to get. I didn't have any bar clamps that were long enough to go the length of the drawer, so I'm either gonna get some or just rely on those nails for holding it tight. So till tomorrow, then we'll start on the next drawer. All right, the next set of boards are ready to be glued together, and I am using just a palm sander with a 120 grit on it when I'm done. And the reason I'm doing that is to, you know, find imperfections if there are any, but also there's some little ripple in the surface of this from when they finished planed it, and it takes that out. Any of the pencil marks, I round the top and the bottom edges of the drawer so that, like, if you go to pull the drawer out sometime down in the future, then you're able to, you know, not have those sharp edges, those corners of the board. And then on the plywood drawer bottom, I clean those up for the same reasons, but then I take that sharp corner off the edge, so when I go to shove the drawers together during their assembly, that it goes just much easier, not catching on the corners. But I'll get this one together and then start on that third one. Hey, and I do all the dado work on my Shopsmith over there. I've had that for years, and boy, has it come in handy for a lot of different projects. All right, that one is nailed together, so that's the second drawer done. I've got these nail holes up here that I'm going to go ahead and fill in. I've wiped off all the excess glue, and honestly this time I'm not going to clamp it. I did not get any more glue out of the corners or the glue joints when I clamped it last night on the other drawer, so I'm going to fill those holes and set it off to the side and start on the third one. Just finishing up my last board, sanding it, and this is a pronounced that rippling effect that I was talking about that I'm sanding out. But it does come out fairly easy. Takes you a few minutes, but smooths up really nice with that 120 grit and that palm sander. And there's that same surface about 3 minutes later with some sanding on it. And the other thing that I wanted to point out, two of these boards were that board that I got a discount on, and right there you can see the little dimples where those straps were on that one, and same thing on that one right there. But they're going to be on the bottom side of the drawer and really won't be visible, and it'll suit me just fine for making that drawer. But I'm going to finish this up and we'll get this thing together. Like I said earlier, I'm above my pay grade. And here's a piece of that veneer off of that 250-foot roll. And I've never done this before. This edge has been sanded, and I'm going to take the iron over there once it warms up, and I'm going to hold this thing equally spaced because it's wider than the plywood itself. And I bought this tool. It was one of those things, people buy this with this kind of thing. And I did buy this roll from Lowe's, but it says that it's a trimmer. And I opened it up and it's just got some razor blades that trim the edges right there. So you hang this over the edge and you're able to evidently hold this edge against the front of or the face of that veneer, and it trims it off. And you can go left or right. I'll turn the board over to do the other side once I get the first one done, but I'll put that on video when I do that. But after that iron warms up, I'm going to give it a shot. All right, here we go. I've taken a piece of that veneer, cut it to length. I've taped it on so that it protrudes off of both edges about the same and held it in place with that tape. It's as hot as the iron will go. I'm going to start at the middle and go outward just because I don't know what I'm doing. It sounds like the right thing to do. I'm going to hold on to the back of the board so I can put some pressure on it. I don't know whether you use the steam or not, but from stuff that I've seen on the internet, they don't. They have these little handheld irons that seem to be just a flat surface that heats up. This happens to be a Teflon coated iron, and I'm looking at the back edge here and seeing that it is kind of melting against that surface as that heat gets into it. And I don't know whether to run over that tape or pull it off, but I'm going to go back the other direction. I can definitely feel that heat in my armpit. And hopefully I'm getting it hot enough to secure it to that plywood. And that adhesive on the back side of this seems to be quite thick, and it really does thin out once the heat gets to it. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that tape off and finish out the ends. All right, I'm going to let that cool a little bit, and then I'll try that little tool that I purchased. All right, let's try this tool here. It comes with a whole set of instructions. It's got replaceable blades, and I'm going to guess that maybe those blades can be reversible. But hopefully I've got, yep, the sharpened edges are showing there, so let's give this a try. I'm just holding it flush to that front edge and holding down pressure on it as I'm going across. Wow, that's pretty nice. There's a spot where I got up in the air there. So I'm going to go back and give that another shave. That worked nice. Another high spot there that I must have lifted up on it. All right, I've got 120 grit on my palm sander. I'll come back and I'll hit that in the face where it kind of put a dark spot on it from the iron. I dug in there a little bit, but fortunately that's the inside of the cabinet. All right, there's the back of the cabinet. I mortised out, I dadoed out the backs or the sides of the backs of the side panels over here, and on both sides over about 3/8 of an inch. And so you can see I've got it wrapped with some tie down straps, ratchet straps, and definitely made that square so that it helped to square up the cabinet. Did the same thing with the top, so it'll flush out. I'll just be able to glue the granite top to that. And then on the front, the rails that I made, the top one, I went ahead and dadoed out the back side of that so that, you know, this top, once I get it glued and nailed in place. And over here, I dadoed out the back of these for boards going across, and I think I might change that, but definitely going to put one across the bottom. But I made a mistake, and I dadoed down through the middle of that. And the way that I'm going to put that on here, like that, well, that's going to be flush with the bottom. I'm going to end up needing the notch on the bottom side. I needed to dado out almost like I did for the top, just flip it around the other direction. So I'm going to remake that and get that set up in there. My openings figured out, somehow I'm about 1/4 of an inch off. So I'm just going to make this bottom board that's going across 1/4 inch taller to get a 12-inch, I believe an 8.5 and a 4-inch opening there. So I'll get that remade and bring you back. All right, I remade this bottom piece and relocated that dado slot on the bottom so that the bottom of that cabinet will fit into that. And I've got to make that piece yet, but let me show you one other thing that happened to me here when I was squeezing this in. That's that veneer that I put on there. And because of the crappy laminations on that, you can see that it buckled out. So I'm going to take this thing back apart and call it a night. But before I do that, I'm going to throw a wedge in here and try to get this thing so it will support, you know, the nails going through it and it won't buckle like that. And we'll see how it goes. Cleaned that area out where the lamb was starting to erode. Let's see if I can't get this thing to focus. And I made up this little wedge, kind of conforms to that space there. I'm gonna glue that, pound it in, and see if we can't get that little lump out of there. All right, it's the next morning, and here's that repair we left off with last night, and that bubble in the veneer. But I'm going to turn the camera around, get behind the camera, show you some close-ups of this, and I'm also going to show you some of the concerns I have as far as how I'm going to assemble this cabinet. I've given it a lot of thought, and I may be doing it the wrong way, but I'm going to show you the process that I'm going to use. All right, there's the front of that veneer, and it doesn't have the bubble in it anymore. And I'm just gonna sand that off flush. And here's some of the issues I had. I tried a couple different processes, one being a router, and maybe I ran it the wrong direction, but you see the flaking that I have on the inside of the cabinet, and wasn't real happy when that happened. But my initial plan was that I was going to put shelves in between each drawer section. And now I've decided against that, because after I had dry fit this cabinet and put the top on it, put the back on it, and had the rails up here clamped into place and the straps around it, it was definitely secure enough. I am going to end up just with the top set in so that the granite will be able to be adhered to that. And then across the bottom, I'm going to have a shelf, and I'm going to just put in some nailers underneath to glue that shelf in and nail it. And I am planning on putting the back of the cabinet in last, so that as I put in my drawer slides, that I will end up having access to this. Now, sanded the sides down, and I am about ready to mount these to the inside for that bottom shelf to sit onto. My kickboard is going to nail to here, and I can nail to there also. And I left enough room at the back, so when I put the back on, I will have, you know, a piece mounted to the back so it'll fit in there, and the same thing on the other side. So it'll give me a nice base for my shelf to sit on, that lower shelf. All right, I forgot to hit the time lapse button. I had the camera all set up, and something went wrong, but there it is. I've got the corner clamps in the top. It's together here so that when that top goes in, it goes right over top of the back piece. Now, again, I'm not gonna fasten that back piece in until I get the rest of the cabinet together and the drawers in it. At least that's my plan. Who knows about plans? But there it is, and I'm gonna go down and grab something to eat and come back up and see if I can put that floor in there, make sure she's sitting nice and square, and then I'll start putting in those front rails and that top. All right, before we get too far down the road, I think I'm done probably using this as a straight edge on this project. And I just wanted to let you know, while I was down at Harbor Freight picking up those clamps, I noticed that they had a similar product on their shelves for around $40. So less than half the price of this unit. So maybe you might want to check that out. I have no idea of the quality of it or how well it works. I know this worked well for me, but you might want to check out Harbor Freight for their straight edge for cutting before you go and buy one of these. All right, you see the light gap at the back of that back panel? That I had spaced up in order to flush out the tops. Right here, those are flush, so when I put the top on it, same over here. And I did that on purpose in order to keep from dragging that back panel around while I'm moving the cabinet around. But that's how much I lifted it up before. And like I say, I'm not gonna nail it in till after I'm done putting in the front slats and the shelf and the top. Okay, when I put that clamp on there to suck that in to make sure that these joints were extra tight, I noticed that this thing bowed in. See how it's wider out here at the end? My finger fits in, and then right here it's tight. Same over here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab one of those heavier ones and put on it and see what it does. All right, it bowed in also. It is definitely a heavier duty, and I believe that I am probably getting more pressure on it. Now that's just a guess. I don't have anything to back that up other than, see right there on my veneer, it's bubbling again. And my hope is that when I let off this, it's going to come back out. And when I did the repair on this one, I took the iron back over it and heated it up, and it pushed out the little bit of a wrinkle that was in there. So I'm guessing that you can reapply heat without too much damage. But over here, same thing going on. I'm gonna make up another wedge for that, and you can see that little line going down through there. We'll see if we can't get that taken care of. Okay, all the excess glue is wiped out from the top, and we'll go ahead and this side came out very nice when I dadoed it. It has a nice tight joint glue in it, but this side over here, it had that laminate that fell apart as I was dadoing it. Fortunately, it hits nice here on this end, and right here it does a nice job. But I'm going to mix up some sawdust filler and go ahead and fill that in, let it dry overnight. And I may, depends how things going, as sun's going down, and I use mostly natural light to work on this. So I may get the other cross rails in, maybe not, we'll see.